There are growing concerns that Elon Musk will use his close ties to the Trump administration to give himself an advantage against business competitors and use it as a tool to seek revenge against rivals. The billionaire businessman used his wealth to help Trump get elected and has been a fixture in the Trump world as the former president transitions back into office. Joining us to discuss, Miranda Nazzaro, technology reporter here at The Hill. Miranda, Musk reposted on X today comments from Sam Altman and Jeff Bezos, two of those competitors, that they don't feel that Musk would use his relationship with the president to his advantage. So I guess nothing to see here.
I don't know. I mean, concerns have been raised in recent weeks, and you could see this as maybe Musk trying to quell some of those concerns. It remains to be seen if he will actually follow through with that. I mean, Altman and Bezos, even to an extent, do know Musk on a working level, and so they might, if they're speaking to his character and saying that this won't happen, there is a possibility. However, I think that remains to be seen in the next few months.
Trying to douse water on a fire, it seems like they might be trying to do. You wrote this article that kind of lays out the concerns. What are the concerns and who are the quote unquote enemies?
Right. Well, in recent weeks, Musk has already called out some of President-elect Trump's enemies. For example, we saw retired Army Colonel Alexander Vindman, as well as Special Counsel Jack Smith. Now, those are Trump's enemies. And he used language suggesting punishment. He accused Vindman of treason. Now, when it comes to his own opponents, such as Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Sam Altman, he has had social media spats with them. He has not necessarily suggested any sort of revenge, but
we wanted to fight Zuckerberg at one point.
Right, yes, in the cage match last year. That did not come to fruition. But he clearly has used sort of fighting language, if you will, with his industry competitors. And I mean, he does lead the industry in many ways. So it could be seen that he, people had concerns, ethics professors, etc., had concerns that he could be using his influence to sort of suppress competition, which remains to be seen with the Department of Government Efficiency that he's now co-leading, or DOGE for short.
Also targeting some of these more obscure government workers, putting their names out there and their job titles and really causing some upheaval in their lives. I would imagine on the part of those workers and some people in the bureaucracy, that has to be pretty concerning.
Right. I mean, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Musk reposted a random user who was posting the names, the salaries of some of these very not well-known government officials. And I know that one of the women literally had to delete her social media because she was getting harassment. And so when Musk has a platform of over 200 million followers, any tweet from a random person can gain millions of views. I mean, the one with the woman, that gained about 35 million views, I think. So he has a lot of influence and a lot of reach on the platform, which can be considered dangerous for people he's calling out.
And we're seeing these reports now that in total, Musk spent about $250 million on Trump's campaign. That buys at least a lot of access, some would argue influence. Is that part of the fear among his competitors, that he was so crucial to the victory that Trump will kind of owe him a debt of gratitude and might help him?
Right. I think that's a very natural fear that's being had at the moment. Trump, as a businessman himself, tends to surround himself with really wealthy people. And I think that Musk has said he doesn't want anything in return. I mean, he is the world's richest man, so for him, that's kind of just chump change. But I think there's probably an unspoken feeling of Trump will at least owe Musk a seat at the table.
Yeah, and Musk and Ramaswamy have this DOGE commission, Department of Government Efficiency. The deference that's being paid to them on Capitol Hill, you see him going around, he's meeting with the Speaker of the House and the incoming Senate Majority Leader. It's not like a normal commission that's kind of ignored by Capitol Hill. I wonder if they're getting any answers, though. Obviously, they're talking about huge reforms to government bureaucracy, cutting $2 trillion from the budget, eliminating 2 million workers. What kind of reception do those ideas get on Capitol Hill? Are people playing lip service because they know how powerful he is? Or are they really taking seriously some kind of massive effort to reform Washington?
Yeah, so I was there yesterday during those meetings, and I spoke with lawmakers after, mostly Republican, because that is the majority of the DOGE caucuses that are happening right now. And it sounds like they're embracing a lot of these 2 trillion ideas. However, not many of them actually think it's going to be a reality. I mean, one of the main concerns is with slashing this funding and slashing certain agencies is that people in their districts, who especially moderate districts, could be looking at lost jobs, and the representatives have to go back to those districts and suddenly explain why their jobs are no longer available. And so I think they embrace the idea of cutting government costs. However, I think the 2 trillion number isn't being taken as seriously. And when Vivek and Musk were asked about this in the room yesterday, some lawmakers told us that they really didn't have a firm answer. I mean, yesterday was considered this general introduction. Getting to know you is how one representative told me it felt like. And so I think they still have a lot of questions to answer about that.
One of the more interesting proposals that I keep hearing them talking about is getting federal workers to return to the office. A large proportion of the federal workforce works from home, just like, in business. Yeah, I wonder if that's something that they could actually have a big impact on, and then maybe a lot of people would decide they just don't want to return back to work, and that in and of itself could reduce the size of the federal workforce.
Right. I think that's probably one of the more realistic ideas, if you will. I mean, some of the other ideas they're floating, slashing Department of Education altogether, that's not going to come without a major fight. And even then, again, it needs to go through congressional approval. And these representatives going home and telling their constituents that the funding is cut is just, it spells recipe for disaster. But the telework example, I think, a lot of companies around the world are starting to force their employees to come back. And yeah, it might in turn just reduce some of the workforce, because there are plenty of government workers who, that is a red line for them.
And when you talk about those government workers, I think 30% of federal workers are veterans. A large proportion of them are spouses of veterans because they get preferential treatment when it comes to those jobs. So it would be hugely painful to start eliminating huge chunks of the federal workforce for constituencies that politicians really care about.
Exactly. And, a lot of this is being done under the influence of President-elect Trump, who has repeatedly talked about how veterans are a big priority for him. And when they see things like this, voters, constituents in general are likely, going to spot the disconnect. So even if they recommend these sorts of changes in the end, again, it needs to go through Congress. It needs to be approved by the White House Office of Budget and Management. So I think we're a long way from a lot of these ideas coming to fruition.
Be interesting to watch, because I don't think there's been somebody as wealthy and influential as Musk behind a change effort like this. So, he will have influence, but it's an uphill battle when it comes to cutting government spending. Miranda Nazzaro, technology reporter here at The Hill, thanks so much.
Thank you.
The Trump administration may be planning to deport some migrants to countries other than their own. Countries on the list include Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas, according to sources. News Nation's Robert Sherman has the latest on the Trump's immigration and border plan.
As President-elect Trump prepares to take office and put in motion his plan for mass deportations, one challenge that has existed at the U.S.-Mexico border: what do you do with nationals of countries that don't have strong relationships with the United States? Prime examples would be Cuba and Venezuela. Those countries historically have not been willing to take back their nationals who cross illegally into the United States because of poor relations with the United States of America. One idea that's being floated is deportations to other countries, non-countries of origin. But some here in the Western Hemisphere are trying to get ahead on this and shut the door on any such plan. One of them is the Bahamas, who says that they're not in a position to take back any migrants who are not originally from the Bahamas. Another one is Mexico. Is the president, Claudia Sheinbaum, saying that she wants to cut a deal with the United States in which they would not be responsible for non-Mexican citizens returning to their soil. This is what she had to say.
Obviously, we stand in solidarity with everyone, but our main purpose is to receive Mexicans, and we hope to reach an agreement with the Trump administration so that in case these massive deportations happen, they send people from other countries directly to their countries of origin.
Conversations continue to take place between President-elect Donald Trump and the president of Mexico. We've seen them discussing in recent days about tariffs between the countries as they sort out differences on the issues such as immigration, stemming the flow of migrants to the United States. And now this one is on the table as well when it comes to deportations. Those conversations expected to continue, setting the stage for a big set of negotiations when President-elect Trump takes office in January. Drew?
Good news if you're looking to make a big purchase this holiday season. Economists say the Fed will likely lower interest rates again later this month. That's after the Bureau of Labor Statistics released the November jobs report Friday morning. According to the report, the number of non-farm payroll workers increased just over 225,000 last month compared to just 36,000 in October. The report also says wages increased slightly, up nearly 0.5% since October and up 4% since this time last year. Those increases were higher than expected. The unemployment rate did climb slightly to 4.2%, but economists say that bump was expected. One economic strategist with Morgan Stanley told CNBC that the hike in unemployment will go a long way to convince the Fed to bring down interest rates.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Check it out, thousands of people gathering at the White House for the national Christmas trees lighting. President Biden led the event Thursday night. This year's red spruce stands 35 feet tall and is from the George Washington and Jefferson National Forests in Virginia. It will be up in the White House Ellipse until January 1st. That's today's Daily Debrief. I'm Drew Petrimoulx. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Hills YouTube channel. And come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.